Hi, guys. This is the Working Money Podcast with host Michelle Wong. Today, I'm going to do something a little bit different. Normally, I have a guest on the show. We talk about various things that are going on, their journey, and so forth. But today, I'm actually flying solo. So I have no co-host. I have no guest. I'm just going to do something a little bit different. It's going to be more about things that go on overall, and also talk about my favorite holiday, which is Halloween. This is the time of year that I enjoy a lot. I'm very big on autumn, fall. Halloween is my biggest favorite holiday that I enjoy a lot. Then Thanksgiving, because that's an opportunity for people to connect with their families, friends, loved ones, and do self-reflection on what they're grateful for and so forth. And then obviously after that, there's Christmas. That's another time of the year where everybody gets together and they basically gather around and they spend time with their family, friends, and exchange gifts and so forth, and kind of like closing out the year and getting into the new year. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about things that are business related, but I'm also going to be talking about things that are in reflection of the holidays. So one of the things that I wanted to start talking about is basically how I've heard some stories about some crazy things that have happened during this time of year. And one of the industries that I've heard some stories about is in real estate. Obviously, I've because I'm in the industry myself, I've heard some very pretty interesting stories. And one of the things that when I was starting out, as a real estate agent, I went to school, took the course, and one of the things that they were talking about is how there is a gray area, because depending on what state you're in, there is a law, depending on the state that you're in, that determines whether or not you should disclose specific things in the property itself. So one of the things that I found very interesting is that in New York, I believe that you don't have to disclose that there was some kind of chaos or something in regards to the property. What I mean by that is if there was some kind of murder, homicide, suicide, things like that. That's something that I think and don't quote me on this, I have to double check, but I believe that in New York, you don't have to disclose that. But if you go to California, for instance, you do have to disclose it. So it depends on the state that you're in. And I've heard some really crazy stories. One of them has been, I think there have been a couple of stories that I've read articles on, or I've seen it on TV where they're talking about a situation that occurred, and then there you have a real estate agent in a very uncomfortable situation where they have to either disclose what happened to the property or not. And one of them, I would say, is this is one of the infamous, one of the really famous ones have been the Amityville Horror. I don't know I think most people know about this particular story that happened in Amityville, New York. That's in the Long Island sector of New York, and it was a family of six, or I think it's a family of six. There was a mass murder with the family, and basically what happened was that the eldest son, Robert DeFeo Jr., went and killed his family. He killed his, I believe it was his two sisters and two brothers, and both the mother and father. Now, that was back in 1970, I think it's 1974. Don't quote me on that, because I know it's in the late 70s. I think it was like either 73 or 74. And it was in November. And basically, I don't know what was going through his mind. He just decided to go and kill his family. And after that, there comes in the family, the Lutzes came in right after. And I believe in the encounter of the book and the movie that they made based on true life events, there was a real estate agent that had to disclose what was going on in that, because one of the things that happened was that the property itself, the value of it was very cheap for that particular area. It's a very high profile area. It's a nice neighborhood. It's a prestigious area, and for the amount of money that the DeFeos paid for the house, I mean, it's a big house. It's viewing the lake. It was expensive, and then the Lutzes came in and they paid for the house at a discount. So one of the things that they were wondering is, why is it that this property was being sold for fairly cheap? So that's where it was disclosed that there was a mass murder in the house, and that's why they were selling it, because of that. And they decided to make the purchase anyway, because of the fact that they won't be able to get that type of home for that type of money. So that's like one occurrence, and then things happened and they had to move out. But I've heard stories similar to that, where the real estate agents are in a very uncomfortable situation where they have to either disclose or not disclose specific things that are tied to the property. Now, that's just one encounter. You have something like the Manson murder that happened back in the 60s. That was another situation where they were trying to sell the home, and they had to disclose what was going on with it. So it's a very tricky thing where, depending on the state, you have to either disclose it or not disclose it, and it's because of the situation that you don't want to falsely lead a client, for that matter, in buying something and not knowing what was going on with the property itself. You're there for the benefit of that client, so you have to disclose something like that. So I basically have heard stories like that, where there have been murders or there have been suicides in a particular property, and then the misfortune of life goes on, so you have to sell the property, and based on that, you have to either disclose or not disclose it. And if you do, how is the client going to take it? And it's really up to them if they want to or not. And there have been circumstances like that. I'll give you one prime example. This is something very close to home. In the Dominican Republic, my great grandmother purchased her first home. This is when she was in her late 20s. She was a what they call a blue collar family. They were hardworking family, and she had her own business. Both my great grandfather and her had their own businesses. She had a grocery store, a small little grocery store. He had his own carpentry company. And basically, they had a family. My great grandmother had 10 kids, and at that time, she was already on her 8th child, and things were kind of tight. So she needed to look for a place to go and find a new home. And with the amount of money that they had, which was very little, they needed to find a place very quickly that would accommodate a family of 10, and also be able to be affordable for them. So basically, she moved in to this house, and the house was fairly cheap. It's the same scenario. It was fairly cheap, and basically within I think it was within a year or year and a half. I don't recall. It was something that was told to me by my aunt and my mom. And, after a couple of times of repeating the story, it gets lost in translation for a little bit. But I think it was the first year or two, she was receiving a lot of odd looks from the neighbors, kind of like I can't believe that you're living there, or things like that, or do you know, and stuff like stuff like that. So basically what happened was that one day the neighbor came over, and the neighbor was the relative of the former owner, and then basically said, do you know what happened in this house? Did the person that sold you the house tell you what happened? And she said, no, I don't know what's going on, but I'm always getting these weird looks from people. So I was just always wondering, what happened in this house. So basically the situation was the owner of the house had a feud with a friend. I guess it was over business or something of that matter. And that led to an argument. That argument got into a physical altercation. And from that physical altercation, he was killed in front of the house. So he basically was shot in front of the house. This is like, I would say about maybe 60 or 70 years ago. This is way before I was born. This is way before my mom was born. This is when my grandmother was probably like a teenager at the time. And they were shocked because they never knew what transpired, but they always saw the odd looks from the neighbors and the people that were the passerbyers and stuff like that. So it was disclosed by the brother of the person that actually killed the owner, came up and said, hey, this is what happened. He wasn't in agreement with what happened, but it was a misfortune. It was really a misfortune. However, it was never disclosed to them. I think that if it was disclosed to my great grandmother, I don't think it would affect her per se. Only because she was looking for a place to live. It was affordable. It was something where she wouldn't be able to find that type of property for the amount of space that was there that would be able to accommodate 10 people. She decided to just, kind of say, okay, it is what it is. It's done. There's nothing I can do about it now. So let's just keep it at that. And that house has been the foundation. It's been the place where I think everybody within the family, cousins, aunts, uncles, other, grandmother, they all have at some point in time stayed at the house, or there's always some kind of family gathering there. If there's ever a family reunion, that would be the place to go. And most of the family members that have come and stopped by and stayed for whenever they come to visit, they will stay there. So that's how it has been the matriarchal place where all of the families come in and basically kind of connect with the other relatives in the family. So that was like, one of those situations. And the craziest thing is that for those of you that believe in spirits, and for those of you that don't, it is what it is. But I am a believer of ghosts because I've been witness to certain supernatural stuff. So one of the things that I've encountered is actually the spirit of the owner of the house. Never seen a picture of him, never knew what he looked like, never knew the story itself. It was one thing that I was about maybe 5 or 6 years old. I was there. At that time, there was a lot of problems with electricity. The electricity would go off based on, what was going on in the country. And I remember the family members all getting together and coming to the front of the house. There's like a front porch, and they were all coming together. They were talking and just kind of killing time until the lights went back on. And I remember that there's a hallway that goes from the hallway, it goes to the other rooms, to the kitchen, to the backyard. And I remember that I was just playing. I was by myself playing, doing my thing. And I see this man coming from the back bedroom, walking to the hallway. And I got up because I never seen this man before. No one I don't recall being someone in the family. And I just kind of got up and I saw him, and just kind of like walk through me as if nothing happened. So that was my real first encounter of seeing spirits and stuff like that, which is kind of crazy. And I think it was like years later my aunt was having a recollection of things that have happened in the house, and she's very terrified of that. And she was saying that she stayed in the actual room where he used to sleep. His bedroom was in the same bedroom that she was at as a teenager. So she was recalling later on as an adult, she was talking to my mom and talking about this whole situation that occurred. And she was just taken aback. And I said, well, does this person look like this? You know, does he have white shoes and this and that? And she's like, yes. Have you seen him? I said, yeah, I remember that I was about 5 or 6 and this is what happened to me. And, you know, it's just one of those things where it's kind of eerie. It's unnerving, but at the same time, if someone else kind of recalls a similar situation, it's not like you're crazy. It's, you know, something that actually happened to you. So that's just like one encounter that I can say personally that's happened to me. But when when this is referring to business, you have to be honest with the client when you're in real estate, and you have to disclose what transpired in that particular property, because it's really the determination of that client whether or not they want to go through and make the purchase of that property, of that home. So, you know, that's just one encounter. I mean, I can tell you more stories. There's one that just happened recently in the past year, which is very terrifying, very terrifying. And this is where they're starting to look for ways to protect real estate agents. But there was a woman that was showing a house, and I believe that there was a man that had some kind of mental issue or something to that fact. And he had a history of being violent. And he, I guess, knew that she was showing the house or something. And he basically kidnapped her or something and killed her afterwards. And they didn't find the body until like a couple of days later or something like that. I don't know the full details of it because it's been a while, but it's situations like that where I've heard stories where they've either been kidnapped or they've been physically abused, or the worst case scenario is that they wind up killing them. And, you know, these are things that you have to protect yourself in this day and age. And they are doing things to protect real estate agents and brokers and people of that have to interact with clients. Now, I'm not discouraging anybody from not going forward and continue doing business and meeting clients and stuff like that, but you have to be careful of who you encounter. You have to always do your due diligence and just keep an eye on that and do a little bit more research on the person that you're engaging with, or engaging your surroundings if it's not the client itself. But I've heard these kind of crazy stories, so I just wanted to share that with you as well. I mean, like I said, there are some encounters that I've seen that happen. One of the other scary stories that I hear a lot, and this is another famous one. This is, I believe, in the Midwest. It's a country singer goes and buys a commercial property, and basically it was a bar, and he took it over and he basically revamped it and he turned it into his own bar where people can come in and they just have a good time. They can dance, they can have their food, and they listen to music and have some drinks and stuff like that, just to have a good time. Well, this particular bar, years before, there was a couple of murders that happened there. There was a woman that the story goes that she had some kind of illicit affair with a soldier or someone of elite, and found out that she was going to have his child. And in the midst of everything, she disappeared and she was killed. Now, story goes there's a couple of variations of the story. One, they said that she used to be a prostitute back in the day, and basically she had some kind of thing with a client. She kind of fell for him and then found out that she was expecting a child with him, and he wasn't too thrilled about it, so he wanted to discard her and the baby and all of that. Then there's another story where they say that that basically they were trying to sacrifice. It was some kind of satanic ritual, and they were sacrificing her. And right on the grounds of where the bar is, I think if it's in the basement, there's some kind of well, and that well is where they used to dump the bodies and stuff like that. A story goes that that's also a portal for spirits and things of other world to come, and it's like a channel, a portal for them to come in. So the whole story that I've heard, and I've heard this on numerous occasions, is that the husband, the owner of this, I think it's something Bernie Mac or something Mac. I don't remember his exact name, but he's definitely a country singer, and he bought this property with his wife. The wife was very uneasy, and at the time she was expecting a child with him, and she's encountered some very violent situation towards her, and it seems it's because of the fact that the spirit that was there, or the person that was there previously that was killed, was expecting. So there was some kind of correlation with that and her being pregnant as well. So that whatever that entity was attacking her. He never felt anything because I guess he was very oblivious of what was going on around him, but the people that worked in staff noticed few things, and they had to do some stuff to do an exorcism to try to see if they can lift whatever, if it was a demonic presence in the vicinity of the bar. So, that's like another encounter. And basically it's just crazy how, how certain things that are like supernatural kind of intertwines with things that go on in business, either if it's in real estate or if it's in other industries. And this is just a few encounters that I've heard about things that go on. And, it's one of those things that I find very interesting. And I've heard some other horror stories where there's some showings. I think it was just recent. In the past couple of weeks, I heard an article about how there was a real estate agent doing a showing at a home, and they actually found a body left in one of the freezers or something like that. I think in the showing, showing the client, they were just going through the home, showing the different rooms and so forth. And I think out of curiosity, they saw that there was a freezer there, and then they found that there was a dead body. And there are numerous accounts like that occur. So imagine that you're there, don't know what really is going on. You're just there for a showing, and then all of a sudden you come across something as scary as that. And again, this is something that you might hear on occasion, but it does occur to people, or the fact that you have a listing and then you come across a situation where you start to get the history of that property, because clients are going to ask you, who owned it previously and stuff like that. Like, for instance, if you are living in New York or you're living in California, there are going to be some high profile individuals that might live in a specific area. So if you're showing a house in Beverly Hills, per se, let's just as an example, the likelihood of that it belongs to a celebrity or an artist, a musician, is very great. So imagine if you have to go and they're asking, because you have a client that is is looking at particular homes, and they're going to be asking a whole bunch of questions. When was it built? How many square footage does it have? Who was the previous owner? Is there, how many rooms is it? How many bathrooms? Is there a pool? Is it doesn't? Things like that. So you have to be on point, and you have to do your homework so that you will be able to provide a full service to your client and be able to give them as accurate information as possible. But again, it's one of those things that probably it's gonna, have a situation where you're gonna encounter some kind of unusual story that happened that is tied to the property. And then you're going to be in that very uncomfortable situation that when you're talking about the history of the property and you're going through, letting them know what is the logistics of the actual property itself, that you're going to have to, come to the realization that you have to also let them know, well, this is what happened in this particular property and this and that. And then again, it's just a matter if the client wants to go forward and make the purchase or not. It's really up to them at that point. But those are just like a lot of crazy situations that I've heard in the past, or I've read about them, or I've heard from other individuals as well. So that's just a couple of factors. Now, because of the whole fact that we are in the Halloween spirit, let's talk about a couple of other things that might be a little bit of a deviate a little bit from the business aspect of things. And what I mean by that is that I'm going to be discussing some other stuff that are more on the playful side of the season, things that, I already shared a couple of stuff in regards to what they call haunted homes. And I think that it does exist to a certain extent. Places that are haunted, there are some stuff that is unexplainable. It's a supernatural encounter. Some people might be believers, some might not be. I am personally a believer because I've encountered a few things myself as a child, as an adult. So it's hard for me not to say, well, I don't believe in that. I have encountered a few things myself. Now, with that being said, I'll give you one prime example. Staten Island is a very old borough, and what I mean by that is that the Dutch settlers came into Staten Island. That's where Staten comes from. It's a Dutch word, and basically there has been some ties of political figures, George Washington, Andrew Jackson, John Adams. There have been some political figures that have come to Staten Island to do a few things that has shaped what has happened for us in the future, which is now. So you have the Dutch settlers, then you have some of the originals that came from England that established themselves. They became the Americans, the founding founders of America. And there has been a lot of rich history in Staten Island, and there are still places to this day that are still visible. There is Nug Harbor, which is it was based back in the day when it was a place for sailors and people that were in the military to have a place to stay, and that was established. That was then turned into a museum. So there is some history there, and if you walk the grounds, you feel like you're in the 1700s, 1800s, where some of those people that used to, and even they get dressed up. So they walk around. There are days that they'll have specific important events, and they will be dressed up, and they'll walk the grounds, and you feel like you're in that time era. One of the other places that is very famous, and I think that most people know when they hear of Staten Island, they think of Richmond Town. Now, Richmond Town is very colonial. There are some churches that are there from the early, I think, the early 1600s. So there's some churches that are still there. And one of the craziest things is that for those of you who have been to Virginia, you go to Williamsburg, you go to Richmond Town, there are certain sections that they do reenactments, and you have people dressed up in in the timepiece of the 1700s, the late 1700s, and they walk around and they reenact certain things. If it's not a battle, it's how life used to be at that time. Same thing here in Staten Island. Richmond Town has that same feel. They during this time of year, they have a candlelit tour, and basically what they do is at night they'll have a tour of the whole town, and they do reenactments, and it's more for Halloween, because it's a little spookier when you walk around during the evenings. They'll talk about ghost stories and things like that. So that's like one of the encounters. If you ever come to Staten Island during this time of year, that would be the perfect time to go. You can get to tour Richmond Town in the evenings, and get a little bit spooked by that. There's Alice Austin. There's the College of Staten Island. There's quite a few areas that are still intact, that still has that history, and they're landmarks in Staten Island. So if you ever want to come in and really get the history, you can do that, and you can go to these museums, and you could definitely get the presence of what Staten Island was like back in the 1700s and 1800s. So that's like one factor. And then if you go to like the other boroughs, there's also, you're going to hear some like, horror stories about other places as well. One thing that comes to mind is that there was a situation that happened back, I think, in the 1970s in Staten Island, where there was a lot of abductions of children, I think, that disappeared. And there was this one story that made headlines, where there was a child that disappeared, and it was in the grounds of one of the older areas. I think it's where because Vanderbilt used to live in Staten Island back in the day. And there's a section where, because Staten Island is known for a few things. One of them is a mental asylum. At that time, we had a huge mental asylum. There is a section of the mental asylum that's there. It's, oh my God, that's across the way from Midland Beach. That's still in existence. But one of the older ones used to be on Victory Boulevard, where now it's the College of Staten Island. So that was a major mental asylum. And not only that, back in that at that time, it's not like how it is now, where if there's parents that have children that had that were born with the misfortune of having disabilities, mental disabilities, if it's mental retardation, or they had some kind of mental condition, they were taken away and they were put in these places and they were being taken care of. And it's not like it is now, where parents are a little bit more understanding and they're taking care of their own child and stuff. Back in the day, it was not even something that it was even considered. They would just send them away, and they were kept there. They were tended to, and now it's turned into the College of Staten Island, which is a very big campus. And there's, like I said, there's a lot of peculiar things that have happened in Staten Island. There's a monastery where it's supposedly haunted. If you go to the monastery and you go up the hill, they say that there's some kind of weird energy that occurs, or if they've seen apparitions and things like that. I don't know, because I've never been there personally. I only do like a couple of things here and there in regards to Halloween stuff, mazes and stuff like that, but never anything in that essence, because I don't want anything of that nature following me home. They can stay where they are. And there's another area that is full of history, and I've heard this numerous times. I heard a lot of stories, and you can even check it out online, is Manhattan. If you go to certain spots in Manhattan, you'll get stories about ghost sightings and things like that. I believe that if you go downtown to like Spring Street or Prince Street, I don't recall, one of the places where Edgar Allan Poe used to reside, that was one of the places that they said that there's a haunting. There are some, I think there's one place on East 57th Street. There's a building there where there used to be a very prominent wealthy individual, and he, I guess, was supposedly cursed by something, and he basically died at the building, and anybody that goes there, they encounter certain unusual things. So, you know, Manhattan itself, if you go to certain places, there's going to be stories about it. And they do actually have tours that they have either in the downtown area or during this time of year, because it's perfect for Halloween. It has to do with spirits and things like that. They do have Halloween tours. So they do that during this time of year in the downtown area. And apart from that, they still do walking tours because they want to give the history behind downtown, how it was established in certain areas and who used to reside there and things like that. So that's one of the things that you can find, particularly for Halloween, is the candlelit tours are also the same thing that they do in Staten Island, they do in Manhattan, and you get to walk around, and then you have the tour guide that gives the history about things and all of the unusual supernatural things that occurred. Then they also have other tours where it's a little bit more in depth. I believe that they take you in some kind of I think they take you in a bus or something like that, and you have they'll basically take you to areas where they say that there's hauntings and things like that. So that's a very interesting thing to do. So again, if you ever, like, for those of you that are curious about that and want to take those tours, by all means, go online. You can find Richmond Town. If you go to their website, you can do the walking tour. And if it's during this time of year, I still believe that the tour is still good until probably until Tuesday, because Tuesday is Halloween Day. And if you just want to take tours overall, if you Google walking tours in New York City, there's going to be a couple of tour companies that will come up, and depending on where you want to go, or if you want to be walking around, you can find a few in the downtown area. You'll find a few uptown. So it depends on where you want to go and what areas you want to see, or what famous person that they'll say that that passed on, that basically that you can see if you can encounter something with them. So these are like the really cool things about that you'll find in New York City, is that there's always going to be some kind of interesting thing that goes on. Supernatural things, yes, you'll find a few encounters here and there. So I just find it an interesting take in regards to the craziness that I've seen, heard, in regards to that, and also some other unusual things that I've seen that are not related to the supernatural. Just being in New York itself, encountering some people, very unusual people, and the things that occur while walking around or taking the train or taking a cab. So, these are just things that are just interesting to me overall. Again, you have to be careful during this time of year, because you never know who you're going to come across, and not necessarily ghosts, but some people that are a little bit on the unusual side. So please be safe on that. And in regards to other things, I mean, what can I say? Now that we're coming into the time where things starts to die down for certain people in the real estate industry, some people might say yes, some people might say no, depending on where you are and how active you are. Usually the peak of real estate occurs in April, early April, because that's the springtime. That's where you start to get people coming out because it's warmer. You're going to get students that are in the process of changing out, and they're moving because they're getting ready to leave because of the semester. You have tourists that are coming in. They're looking for a home so that they can stay if they're in, they own their own business, or they're in something in the business arena. So there's a lot of tourists, like Europeans. You have people from in Asia that they come in and they're looking to have a place while they're conducting their business. So April is usually the peak of that because it's warmer. It's easier for you to do showings and things like that. Things start to die down around this time. Usually the end of September or the beginning of October is when things start to die down, because now it's getting a little bit colder. The nights are getting longer per se, and things are just starting to die down. The holidays are starting to come into place, and people are not really focused on doing anything in the real estate sector. But again, it really depends on the individual, because some people are very busy during this time of year, and that's because they're always generating leads. They're always making connections. And while everybody else is concentrated during the peak of the holidays, which is Thanksgiving, Christmas, and the New Year, that's where some other individuals are really getting their hustle on, because now that whoever they're just concentrated on or kind of like dying down, they're now being more active and getting more clients. So it really depends. I've heard people that this is the time that they're the busiest, because they're always constantly connecting with people, going out, networking, getting referrals from other clients or other people that they know. So it really depends on the individual. Now, one of the circumstances of that is that if you are, for instance, a real estate investor, it doesn't matter what season it is, you're always going to be active, because you're always going out, generating leads, connecting with clients, going into projects, doing transactions, and so forth. So that's not being affected by real estate investors overall, because they're always constantly on the move. They're always looking at multiple properties, making connections, getting those leads, connecting with the clients, doing closings. So it's a little bit different than a real estate agent. Real estate agents, they go by season. But if you're a true hustler and you're always on the go, it doesn't matter. You're always busy all year round. So it really depends on how, how aggressive you go about it. And it also depends on the particular company that you're in. Some companies are always on the go, other times not. But again, it really depends on the season, and it depends on how active of the things that are going around you. Usually during the winters, everybody's concentrated more about, going out with family and the festivities and things like that. And other people, they don't think about the holidays. They're thinking more about just being on the go and just doing their hustle and just going out and generating the leads and just doing that. So you have both sides of this situation. In the two types of real estate agents that you have, and also how a real estate investor works. So that's just one factor. And, there's just multiple things that go on during this time of year. And it's also the time that people are reflecting and getting ready for the new year. Now, if you are an entrepreneur, a business owner, you're always looking at what the goals are, what the goals were for the beginning of the year, in the middle of the year, and then at the end of the year. We're towards the end of the year. So you're trying to see how you can reach a couple of your own goals and then planning for the new year. You always have to plan out for the new year because you want to make sure that you're always on point and you always have a structure and a method to how to get to the next point of your business. Now, with that being said, this is also the opportunity, because of the fact that we're getting towards the holidays and there are going to be some Christmas parties, there's going to be some holiday parties, you have the New Year and stuff like that. It's also, there are going to be events alongside of it that is networking and social events. Take the opportunity to go to those events and mingle with people. Let your presence be known when you're going out to these particular functions. And the reason being is, even though things are calming down because we're getting into the holidays, doesn't necessarily mean that you have to keep dormant as well. You still have to make your presence known. You still have to, show that you're still in business and you're still active, because that's how you can get things done for the new year. And what I mean by that is, if you start going to these events, even if they're social gatherings, there might be a few networking events here and there that are attached to the holidays. Take that opportunity to go out, connect with people, have one-to-one conversations while you're out there, and give out your business card, let people know who you are, because the more that you do it, the more that people are going to know your name and see your face and have and kind of click the two together and what you do and what your brand is and all of that. So always make it a point to go out and let your presence known. Even at these social gatherings, because you never know who you're going to connect with at these functions. So if it's a social gathering and, it's the holidays or whatever, you can do a little bit of small talk. I know that people are out to enjoy themselves and have a good time because it's it's the holidays, it's the festivities, but also keep it in mind that you can do small talk. You can let people know what you're doing, what you're up to, because then that clicks with them. And even though they might not initially do something with you at that moment, they will eventually do something with you later on. So you could set things up for what goes on for the new year. That's kind of like a plan that you can start making those connections and tying everything together and basically getting it ready for the new year. One of the other things that you need to do for the new year is reflect on what you did for the previous year. So 2017 for me has had its ups and downs. What do I mean by that? I've had my moments where there were certain things that were a little bumpy along the way. It didn't discourage me. It just made me a little bit more tougher in what I wanted to do and how I wanted to go about it for the end of the year. So with that being said, I basically had to reflect on all of the things that occurred. What were my ups and what was my downs? What caused my downs? Was it something that was under my control, or was it something that maybe was in coordinates with other people, and maybe it was because of the timing with the other person? Whatever the case was, I had to reflect on that and said, okay, you know what? Now I know that this is the end result to this situation, and not now find the alternatives for the next time if that ever occurs. So, I had to do that for, quite some time for this year. And now that we're going towards the end of the year, I had to really reflect on the things that went on in the past few months and how I can change the dynamics for the new year and how I'm going to make it different for the new year. And I've been doing this for the past couple of weeks because I really want to set myself up to do better for 2018. So as of late, I've done a lot of great connections with people. And one of the things that I mentioned before is LinkedIn is a definite tool that you need to utilize in order for you to really connect with good people, because LinkedIn is a professional social platform for you to connect with other individuals in a profession, whatever industry that you're trying to connect with. That's a great place to go. Now, with that being said, I basically made a lot of connections through LinkedIn. I had followed through with doing meetings and here and there. Sometimes I bump into some of them at events and things like that. But it has set me up to be able to do some of the shows that I'm doing now. And what I mean by that is I've already connected with 4 people. We've done some things together. And because of that, now, because of the fact that they've been on my show or will be on my show soon, but had that interaction with me, now they're bringing other people on board. And what I mean by that is they have clients that are looking to get the exposure in the public. So they're now bringing in those people. So as of late, one person brings in 5 people. Another person brings in 7 people. Another person brings in 3 people. And that adds up. And I cannot cram everything in on the show only because of the fact that I only do these shows Saturdays for 2 hours. It's virtually impossible for me to cram all these people in like for a month or something like that. If there's like 15, 20 people that are looking to schedule a time with me. So what I did was I had to spread it out. I had to tell them, hey, these are the times that I have available, but you're looking at not just this month or next month, maybe possibly in January. And I've been doing that. And is it a good problem to have? Yes, it is a good problem to have, because you don't want to be short of people to come into, the show, but you want to have more people and be able to, continue these services. So, I have a good problem. There have been a couple of drawbacks where you have to reschedule people, or, you have to change the time or whatever it is, because everybody has a busy life. People have different schedules, and that tends to happen a lot. And then you have to rearrange things. And that's just the nature of the beast. That's just how you have to go with it. And, you just have to, be able to work with them and coordinate with them, because those are going to be the people that are bringing you other people. And it's all by reference, by how you interact with them. So this is coming into the new year, and now the new year is starting to get booked. And it's just things like that. You just have to, in the year, look at everything that you've done right and all the things that have not gone so right. I wouldn't say it was something that I would say that has gone wrong. Maybe it has to do with the circumstances or the timing of whatever it is, and it didn't turn out the way that you want it. But don't discourage yourself. You just have to see how you can do things a little bit differently. Now, speaking to other friends of mine, we were talking about 2017, and I think everybody overall have had their highs and lows. I don't think everybody would say that they had a phenomenal year. They've had some bumps in their road, and that's okay. You just have to learn to overcome it and move forward, and figure out how you can do things differently for the new year. So that's what I've been doing for the past couple of weeks, is just basically thinking of all of the things that I have done right, continue doing that, and all of the things that were not going so right, reflect on it, and how can I change it differently. So a few things: connections. Always make your connections with people in person or online, and always have the two combined. You can do a lot online, and I'm one to say, you can touch a lot of people online, but it's also very important to meet people as well and connect with them in person, because sometimes they only see the face. They know the name, but they don't know the personality behind it. They don't know, what you're all about and what your intentions are. But if you're meeting them in person and they can see your personality, they can see what your motives are and your intentions and everything. That kind of all falls in place. And then the likelihood of them working with you is greater. And then they will continue to do things with you, and not only do things with you, but also recommend other people to work with you as well. So these are just like one of the important factors to set yourself up for the following year, and being able to have that in accordance and have like a game plan of how you want to go about it. So planning is also an important factor. What are your goals for the following year? What is it that you want to accomplish? And don't do it all at once, at one shot. Do them in accordance. Take steps to it. So the first couple of months, what is it that you want to accomplish? What you want to accomplish the next few months after that, and the few months after that, until you get to the end of the year. So these are important things that you have to set yourself up, because you don't want to say, well, this is what I want to do for the whole year, and you set yourself up for disappointment, and then you're at the end of the year and you feel very discouraged because you haven't accomplished all of the goals that you have planned out, because you just kind of threw it in at one shot. And you basically methodically have to plan it out in accordance, so that you always have, a couple of months to be able to do small steps to your end result for 1 month, 3 months, quarterly, half the year, and then the year. And that has worked out well for me. I don't know if it will work out for other people, but I recommend that you do that. You just kind of plan things out and strategically have goals in place for, what your end result in small steps until you get to the end of the year. And then you can reflect back and say, hey, did I actually accomplish all my goals? And then you can look forward to the following year and doing the same thing. So, these are just a few things. Now, another thing that I've been coming across a lot is that people are debating whether or not they want to, the whole marketing thing. You have to market. I think it's very crucial. You have to market yourself out there online. You have to put things out there to have your presence, whether it is sending out emails to people within your connections and kind of reminding them of what you're up to and what you're doing, whether it's a newsletter, something that you can do every couple of months and just fill them in on what you're doing, or you can do some videos, do little videos daily so people know what you're doing on that, in that way, or whichever way that you feel comfortable with, but let your presence be known, because that's how you be able to generate people coming to you and be able to get clients, and from those clients be able to go forward and also be able to do projects with them. And that also leads to other people that they recommend, and that has a trickle effect. So, overall, these are the things that you need to do, because we're getting, we're only a couple of months away of getting into the end of the year, which is, December 31st, ringing in January of 2018. Now, what are your goals? What are you planning to do? Write them down and have a plan, how you want to go about it. And how, the inner circle of your people, how they might be an important factor, because you can do some stuff, you can do things personally. You are the essence of what you do, and your actions are what's going to lead you to your success. But also the people around you. You have to also see that the people that are around you also influence you, holding you accountable. And what I mean by that is that when you're around people, are those people inspiring you to do better, or are they deflecting of what you're trying to accomplish? And that's another thing that you have to also take into consideration. In the past couple of years, I'm not in the same circle of people that I used to when I first started. Why? Because there are certain people that affect you emotionally and mentally, and they're not those people that are going to inspire you to do better. If on the opposite, they'll just keep you stagnant, or they might have you second guess yourself. And those are the people that you cannot have around you when you're trying to build yourself, and not just build yourself, have a brand of what you're and showing what you're trying to do and move that forward as a business. So that's another thing that you have to also take into, like, for when you're reflecting on the year, who are the most influential people that you connected with? Are they people that really influence you on a positive, or are these people that are discouraging you and they're on the negative? So you might have to do some New Year's cleaning, per se. Do I mean that you have to dismiss people? No, I'm not saying that. But if these people are not really influence you on a positive note, and they're encouraging you to do better, or you're inspired by it because they're doing great things too, then you might have to keep your distance from them and basically keep things at bay. And I'm not saying, well, I don't want to be friends with you anymore or anything like that. I'm just saying that you just have to not socialize with them as much, not on the day to day. Periodically, you can say, hey, how you doing? What's up? And not hang out with them on a consistent, because believe it or not, the energy does rub off on you. And then you start that behavior that they have, the mental state, that rubs off on you. And then that affects how you do things. And maybe you don't notice it, but other people do. And subconsciously, you start picking up all of these negative habits. So you want to take away from that and basically go into a higher level and be able to say, okay, who can influence me? Who are the people around me that are really doing well? And it's okay to be able to be friends with people that are on a higher level than you, because those are the people that can teach you. Those are the people that can mentor you. Those are the people that can really give value to you, and that you can look up and say, you know what, I want to be like that person. And those are the people that, believe it or not, will help you. If you say, hey, I want to be mentored. I'm trying to do this. This is what my goal is for the year. This is what I want to do in a couple of months. Can you mentor me? Can you show me how you do things? And you'll see that you start adapting the same habits. And when you're adapting those same habits, you start to see that everything starts to fall in place and things are starting to click. So that's why I'm saying that you have to always look at the people that are around you, who you want to socialize with, because not necessarily everybody's going to fit in what you're trying to do overall, in personally, as in, as an individual, and then also as a business, because all of that can affect, one thing affects the other. Personal affects the business. How you represent yourself is going to affect your business. And some people don't realize that the way that you conduct yourself also reflects on how the business is going to be affected. So these are the things that you have to look at very clearly and see what I have done right, what I have not done right, who have I been associating myself in the past year, how those people influence me, or how those people have given me setbacks. And those are the things that you have to start thinking about as of now, because you don't want that to be what you're doing for the new year. So always, go through that. And it's quite all right to be able to do some friendship cleaning, as I say it. Like how in Facebook you have a 5,000 max capacity of friends, and sometimes you look at it and say, wait a minute, I really don't interact with this person. This person hardly says anything to me, but this person says a lot to me. Those are the things that I see a lot of people do, that they at that capacity, and they're starting to clean out because they want to see who is bringing value to them and who are not. You're not going to keep around someone that is not really interacting with you, and you hardly hear from them in the whole year. So what do? You eliminate that as a friend. You unfriend them. And then the ones that are being active, they're very proactive with you. And those are the people that are influenced. Those are the people you want to keep. Well, it's the same thing. You want to keep the people that are very active, the people that are doing things on the positive, that they're doing positive things in their business, and they're always acting in their business, and they're successful at it. Those are the people that you want in your circle. Those are the people that you want to pick their brain on of how they're doing about it and how they can help you as well. And like I said, there's quite a few that I've approached and said, I really value what you do. I am inspired by what you do. I would love to have you as a mentor. And they're open to it. And these are people like on the higher up. And the reason being is because at some point in time they were there and they know what it feels like, and they had their own mentor as well. So they really know what it's like to be on that level and to really get to the point that they're at. You have, what are these influential people? You have Grant Cardone, you have Gary Vee, you have Les Brown, you have James Malinchuk, you have Richard Branson. You have all these influential people, but they're also very approachable. These people are like on the higher up, but they're very approachable. Those are the individuals that they go to the summits. They go to speaking engagements, and they leave themselves open for other people that they can mentor. Why? Because they at some point had to go through the same thing, and they had to be mentored by someone. See, everybody gets mentored by someone. Nobody just kind of like woke up one day and said, okay, you know what? I am the master of the universe. I know what I'm doing and I'm very successful. No, everybody had to go through their own experiences. They had to go through their own trial and error. They had to make a few mistakes and experience from that in order to be at the level that they're at. But at the same token, they're also getting mentored. Tony Robbins, who has not been mentored? These influential people at some point have been mentored by him, and he's been mentored by someone else. You have what's his name, John Maxwell and Jim Rohn. These are other influential people, and they've mentored other people. That's just how it is, and you should go and do the same thing. Get yourself someone that can mentor you and be able to show you a few things and learn something from that, but not be afraid to also go and take action and be able to, go through your own experiences, because it might be a little bit different than what they tell you. They might tell you one thing and, it might go in accordance, but it may not. But it might be an experience that you have that you can tell whenever you become a mentor to someone else. So it's just a trickle effect on that. And a very important key component when you're going through what you're trying to fulfill as a goal. And I've also known a few individuals that have coaches. They have life coaches or business coaches, and there's nothing wrong with that. And that's because they want to keep focus of what they're trying to do and what they're trying to accomplish. So there's different methods of what to do, but it's very important that you always have a plan of what you're going to do for the year and how you're going to break it up. Are you going to break it up by months, or are you going to be breaking it up by quarterly? It really depends on you and how you want to go about it. But these are just things that you can do that would be able to help you for looking at what you did for the previous year and what you want to do for the new year. So again, online, go through the people, see who you've connected with, who you've been active with, who have you not, who has posted positive, influential things, who have not. And that's another thing. As I said before, personal affects business. And what I mean by that is your personal presence, of how you do things also affects your business. And I've said this on other episodes that the things that you post online might not go well with certain people. Well, the same thing with the people that you associate with. The same way that people say, hey, this person is around these circle of people. These are great people. That means that person is also a great person because it's by association. That tends to happen a lot when you see certain groups and you see that they're always hanging out together. They start seeing you in that fashion. Well, the same thing goes in accordance that if you're hanging out with people that are not, they're not beneficial to you. They're not going to help you better yourself. And all they post is like crazy stuff, negative stuff. People are going to look at you in the same fashion. They're going to be like, well, why are you associating yourself with this person? Then they'll start saying, do I really want to do I want to associate myself with that person? And they might not know you personally, but just because of the fact that you're friends with a few people that they're not so positive, not so influential in that aspect, same thing. So, you clean out your online, go through your Facebook, go through your LinkedIn, see who inspires you, who gives you positive feeling. You see that they inspire other people. And so those are the people you want around you. And the people that are not, you kind of just keep distance from. Same thing with when you're going out to social events, people that you click with and you see that there's synergy there and you've been constantly interacting. Those are the people that you keep around your circle. And other people that you're not so interactive or whatever the case is that there's no synergy there. Those are the people that you keep distance from. Then you have your friends and family. Some people have their own opinions, but if you have friends and family that are not 100% supporting you and they're Debbie Downers and they're always have an opinion or they're always being negative about things, those are the people you want to kind of keep your distance from, because you want to come in clean for the new year. And you want to have that mental mindset that you want to accomplish whatever goals that you set yourself for that new year. You don't want people coming in, giving you all of this negativity, and then you can't fall through because all you think about is all of the negative stuff that are looming. Same thing with the people that are not so influential. They're just keeping you stagnant. Those people you don't want around you. You want the positive ones that are going to keep you always on the positive realm. So it's taking action. It's executing it. It's planning. It's basically knowing how you're going to go about it. Take small steps to get into the bigger picture until you accomplish your goal towards the end of the year. So these are components that you have to do as of now and be able to have that for the coming year. Now, that also means that you also have to always check out new events. There's nothing wrong with, because I'm one to do this. I go to quite a few events, and then after a while, if I don't find it challenging in a sense where I'm not meeting the correct people, then I start looking at other events that I can attend, because there I'll find other people that normally are not running in the same circle. So always look for new avenues of where to meet people at events. Look at other places that you can go to connect with people, and you'll be amazed how you meet new people and they might be able to bring you more stuff at the table and do more productive things with you than the people that you've been like hanging out a lot in other events. So always challenge yourself on that. Always look for like other events. If you're not finding it that you're getting anything out of it, or you're not connecting with the right people, then you should start going to other events. It's almost like dating. If you don't find anybody that you like, what do? You go and you look for someone else. You start dating other people until you find the right match. Well, it's the same thing with business. If you're going to events and you don't see anybody worthwhile that you can connect with, or you find that it's productive, the synergy is not there, you don't see that it's going to progress into something where you can finalize some kind of business deal, a business transaction, then go somewhere else and look for it until you find that. So those are these are like things that you can do to build it for the new year and see if that works for you, and I've been like talking for quite some time. And it's just things that I've been thinking of constantly. Another thing that I find important is writing it down. Always, always, always write everything that you do down. Not just do a mental note, but always write it down, because whenever you write something down, it becomes real. I think it's very crucial that you have things written, you see it visual, and when you see it visual, it becomes real. And if it becomes real and you think of it as real, it becomes real. So another thing is write it down. Anything that you do, write it down. Another thing that I think it's also beneficial is keeping a log of everything that you do, like a journal of all the encounters of what you do. I don't have to say I have to be on a daily basis, but maybe every few days or maybe every week you should write what your experiences are. Have you reached your goal for that week, or if you reached the goal for the month? Things that you remember on point that were good or bad, write them down, because those are the things that you can go back and reflect on when you're getting, towards the quarterly. For me, I do this quarterly. So I would look at it and say, well, I remember these things. These are the things that I saw on the positive. These are the things that I saw that were on the negative, per se. These are the things that I can recall. And did I fulfill it? So keep a log of all the things that you do, that you can remember that triggered in your brain, positive, negative, or so forth. And you can reflect on that. Because by looking at it, you can also see what were your thoughts, what was your mental state at that time. And believe it or not, those are the things that you can probably take at some point and maybe turn it into a book. And what I mean by that is that people nowadays are reading books. They're writing books. So what do people do to connect? Or they can have some kind of personal connection. Someone like a Grant Cardone or Gary Vee or Les Brown or whatever, they all have in common is that they all wrote books. Public speakers or people that are entrepreneurs, they write books, and they write books about their encounter. So another creative thing that you can do if you're writing it down, not just for the logistics of things and kind of like I have a mental note so you're always on point and remember the things that affected you on the positive or the negative on self-reflection, but it was also a way to be able to look back at it and possibly put it together for your own experiences that you can, possibly down the road publish, and someone else can read it and be able to encounter your experiences and what you were going through. That might help them, and that's a positive impact, a positive influence, that they would be able to see that and say, oh, this is interesting that this person was feeling a certain way, or this didn't go out, and that's relatable to them, because then whoever comes behind you and they're reading it and they're probably going through their own process, they can probably say, you know what, I'm a little afraid to do this, or maybe I have reservations, or I have a fear of doing it. Maybe that will go away because they see that you went through the same thing. So this is like another creative outlet to be able to utilize that, not just for yourself, and be able to keep yourself accountable, and also help you plan out for the future, but it's also maybe a creative way that you can hold that and be able to use that towards publishing it and be able to help other people out, and they could see some of the things that that you had to go through in order to get to where you're at. So that's like another interesting interesting take of why to write notes, not just for the visual aspect and making it become a reality, but also helping other people that are maybe have reservations of taking that leap and go for it. So these are just like components of things that you can really go and utilize to get yourself prepared to finish out. And if you haven't done any of this in the whole year, that's quite all right. Take the little bit that you have now and just try to, take those steps so that you can prepare yourself for the new year, so that you have some kind of plan in place, so that you can hold yourself accountable to be able to fulfill it and reach those goals. So if you haven't done it, that's quite all right. Prepare it for the new year. Also, the little time that you have, maybe you can just take that little time that you do recall that occurred recently, and then put those pieces together and do a little reflection on things and see. Now, for certain individuals, I think what is good and what is bad, for certain people, it might be that they remember more of the bad things than the good things. And for other people, it's more of the good things than the bad things. So for those of you who had a lot of good things and you had the little bit of the bad things that happen, continue going on your path, but also look into some of the bad things, the quote unquote, the bad things that you can encounter, and think about how you can do certain things differently and apply it for what you're planning to do for the new year. For those individuals that have had a lot of bad things happen to them and they only remember a few of the good things, look at the good things and see what is it that you did right, and then apply that for the new year. So do the reverse, because for those of you who have a lot of good things going on, that's great. But the little negative things that have happened, those are the things that you need to like really look at and see how you can do things a little bit better, or take that and also, look at the other things that can happen. Take that as a learning experience, because most successful people, they look at more of the failures and the good things. Why? Because you can always better yourself. Now, and on the same component, for those of the people that are always on the negative, and they're looking at all the bad things and they can only encounter the good things tend to come. You have to look at the good things, and you have to change your mindset and be able to look at all of what can happen if I start thinking that it will happen. And you'll see how quickly everything else starts to kind of like fall in place. So do the opposite of that and look at what can you do of the good things that you remember and amplify that. Don't dwell on the negative. Dwell on all the good things that you can remember and be able to say, okay, how can I replicate that? How can I multiply that? And the first thing you have to do is you have to look at how to replicate it, and also how you can change your mindset, because mindset is one of the most important factors of whenever you're trying to do something that will lead you to success. And I think that more than anything, you have to like look within yourself. You are the component. You are what controls you. You're the one that can make the decisions. You're the one that's taking the actions. It's all you. And if some of you think that it's like other people, you can't blame other people, because those people are just around as your surrounding, but they're not the ones that are living your life. You are the one that's living your life. So you have to go consistently forward, and you have to take the actions. You're the one that has to take the initiative. You have to take the plunge. It's all you. It's all you. Now, some of you, there are some thoughts on the controversial stuff about the higher being of God and how God controls and this and that and everything else. And some people have controversy on that, and some people don't believe in God, other people do, and everything else. Me personally, I do believe there's a higher being. There's a higher being that does influence on the direction that we should take, but it's also our decision of how we're going to go about and take it. He's there seeing everything. But if you don't take the right steps or you don't do things in accordance, guess what? The aftermath is the end result is on you. You know? So yes, I do believe in a higher being. I do believe that he's there. He sees and he helps us along the way, but we also have to help ourselves. We have to hold ourselves accountable. We are the ones that make the decisions. And anything else that you do, and if you're doing this on a positive, then he will guide you and he will get you to where you want to go. But it's really determination on you. So, like, I'll give you an example. If you are someone who's constantly self-doubting yourself and you have insecurities and you're taking drugs, or, you have some kind of addiction and you do not go and break the cycle, he can only help you so much. This higher being, God, he can only do so much for you. It's you who have to break that cycle. It's you that has to say, okay, you know what? I have to change myself. I have to be better. I have to take myself out of that addiction or whatever it is that you're doing. It's you, and he will help you. But if you are on that spiral, that downward spiral, and you don't do anything about it, he can only lead you into the way of what? Succumbing to life ending for you, or circumstances going worse for you. But you have to see that for yourself in order to pick yourself up and be able to change yourself. So those are like the things that I constantly say to people. You control you of what you do and what your actions are. He can help you, he can guide you in accordance, but it's you that has to put in that, and everything else will fall in place. So always take that whenever you're thinking of certain things, or should I not, whatever. What can go wrong if you go and take an action towards something that you want to do? And I'm talking about on a positive note. If you're going out to start a business, get into a particular industry, what is the worst that can happen? That it doesn't go in accordance? Then pick yourself up and then, do something else, or pick yourself up and look for another option to get to the path that you want to go in accordance to what you're trying to do in a business as an entrepreneur. And anybody that's successful on that level can tell you the same thing. And they've gone through it. And sometimes they've had the door shut on them, or they had to go through a lot of stuff in order to get to where they're at. I mentioned before, Oprah has been one where she had a couple of doors slam on her. Why? Because they didn't feel like she was the ideal person in journalism. She didn't have the look, because I guess back in the day you had to be a certain look, or you have to be a certain way, you had to talk a certain way, you had to present yourself a certain way. And she didn't have any of that from what they thought, but she proved them wrong, because even though there was a lot of doors slammed on her, she was fired, she was let go, because they didn't believe in her. She believed in herself, and she was able to go and break the barriers, and where she is now. She's a billionaire. She's sitting there. She has her own network. She's everything that she touches turns into gold. Why? Because she believed in herself. She picked herself up. She kept moving, and it took her some time, but look at her now. Who doesn't know who Oprah Winfrey is? And you have someone like Mike Tyson. I'll give you an example of Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson, everybody felt a certain way. They joked about him because, he was the heavyweight champion of the world. He had a few misfortunes come to him, because of the whole fame. He went through a certain dark place, and it resulted in a lot of negative results. However, he picked himself up. He self-reflected and he changed himself. He said, you know what, I have to be the person that I need to be. And look at him now. He's speaking in different places. He has written a book about his own experiences, his own encounters, and he goes out and speaks about his own experiences and how he was able to pull through and move forward. And he went from being a heavyweight champion to, kind of being mocked because of all of the things that happened to him, a few years back, to where he is now. So he was able to bounce back. And then you have someone like an actor, what's his name? Robert Downey Jr. was another one. He was very, very popular in the 1980s. And then he went through a spiral. He had a drug addiction, and he was going through some stuff. He was, in and out of the court system because of his drug problem. And he was at some point, Hollywood wanted to turn their back on him, and he basically needed to kind of go within himself and say, I have to change this. I have to really do better for myself. And he was able to turn it around. And Robert Downey Jr. is now like in a lot of movies, and he's now the it guy. Like, he has his franchise with Iron Man and Marvel, correct? So he bounced back, and it's just being resilient and be able to bounce back. For those individuals that have had their high point, hit rock bottom, but you can still bounce back. And then you have the ones that have had the misfortune of trying to put themselves out there, and then luck has it that they have obstacles in their way, but they were determined to be able to, be successful. So they did whatever it took to get themselves at that level. So if they can do it, so can you. And it's just a matter of the mindset of how you apply yourself and how you do things. And it's all about you and how you view yourself and how you want other people to view you. And it's taking the actions. It's everything is really you. You have to do everything. Other people can support you, but they can only support so much. They can support you emotionally on that aspect, but everything else is really on you. So these are things that you have to sit and really think about when you're going through your journey and how you want to go about things. It's really everything is on of your mindset, your actions, your decisions. So those are the things that you have to sit there and think about, like, wow, what did I do for the year? What positive? What have I accomplished? What I didn't accomplish? And then whatever you didn't do for that year, that's quite all right. Apply it for the new year until you reach all your goals. It's just a matter of being determined, just going forward and doing it yourself and applying it yourself. There's so many things that individuals can do to get themselves on that path, and that's what determines the people that are successful and the people that are not. Is that little piece of that determination is really what separates the successful people and the people that are not. Is that determination? How bad do you want to go about things? How bad do you want it? And that's what separates everybody from the average and the extraordinary. Because when circumstances happen, they still have that determination to keep going forward and still continue doing things. And there are some other individuals that decide to just give up and say, I'm done, throw in the towel, and they just call it a day. For those people, no matter what, they just continue on and they keep pushing until they get to the end and they see the light on the other side, and they see that things are moving in accordance for them. And then once they see that, then they replicate it again and they keep doing it until they get everything that they want. Because nothing is impossible. There's nothing saying that you can't achieve it. There's nothing saying that you can't do it. And one of the other things that we were discussing a few episodes back was how it's amazing that there are a lot of entrepreneurs that come in from other countries, and they come in with this hunger to achieve something. And I think in one of the first episodes that Willie and I did about a year ago, we were talking about that. And I can definitely say, because where I live, I know a few business owners for years, and there's like a dry cleaning company that are owned by a Korean couple, and they've had this business for like 30 years. Then there's a 7-Eleven, and that's owned by another Korean couple. The wife is still alive. The husband died of about maybe 15 years ago, but they've had this business for like 28 years. And there's a Mexican pizzeria. It was originally an Italian pizzeria. Then the owner left about 18 years ago. And one of the employees, who used to be a cook, he took over the business, and it's been doing phenomenal. And now it's a family-owned business, because now he has his children there helping out with the family business, and it's just growing. And and there's like the guy that has Forever 21 is another example. He was he's an immigrant that came from I think he's Korean. He came from Korea. He worked as a janitor, and he started saving money, and then he opened up an online store, and it was Forever 21. And then it replicated from there. Now he has a chains of stores all over the U.S. And then you have someone like the guy that has Pinkberry. He's another Korean immigrant. I think he's based out of California, and then he just opened up a chain. After a few years, he became well known. And it's just like things like that, it's people that are coming in from other countries, because we're a melting pot of individuals that came in from other countries, other cultures, and they come in so hungry to be able to come in and establish a business. It's phenomenal that they come in, they have this drive, this determination, whether and some of them don't even know the language, which is like amazing, that they come in not really, knowing the language, not really knowing the culture. They just, I want to come to America. America is, land of dreams, of the American dream. They come in, they do their thing. And it's amazing how you see how it unravels. And you have some, born and bred Americans doing the same thing. But again, it's the same thing. It's the drive. It's something within them that I think separates the ordinary from the extraordinary. That they have that extra thing in their brain that says, I have to do this. I have to do this no matter what. That drive, that determination, and whatever circumstances come their way, they overcome it, and they continue moving forward. And that's what I'm saying, that you don't have to let yourself be discouraged by circumstances on obstacles that come your way. It's just a matter of just getting it done. And these people, that's what they did. And every time that I have my moments that I'm kind of like, sometimes I even doubt myself, I'm human, and I see some of the things, and I said, what? I think about these influential people that have done it well for themselves, and it's like, I can't give up. I can't stop what I'm doing. I have to see it go through, because I need to see what the end result is. So I have to keep moving it forward. And it's not for just me, but it's also the people that are behind me. And what I mean by that is the people that are wanting to do the same thing, and they're trying to start it. And they might have reservations. So I have to show them that, hey, I'm doing this. It's not easy, but I'm doing it. And it makes it easier for them to also say, okay, you know what? I'm going to start this and let myself go into it, you know? And then if I share my stories, my experiences of the things that happened to me, it also helps them as well, because they feel that they're not alone in certain circumstances that happen. You know, we all make our mistakes. We all go through our errors and stuff like that. So if they're going through their stuff, they can say, am I the only one? That's the kind of like the natural, the natural thought when you're going through something and it doesn't go in accordance. It's like, did I do something wrong, or what did I do, and things like that. But if they hear other people that had that same situation happen to them, then they don't feel as bad, because it's like, okay, I'm not alone. That person went through the same thing. And the likelihood of them being able to pick themselves up and move forward will be greater, because they see that someone else went through the same thing. And it makes it easier. And then the next person behind them can go in and they can see what's going on. And it's just a trickle effect. And that's why I'm saying to you guys that you have to be in control of your own life. You have to be the one that takes the actions. You are the one that have to make the determinations of when you want to start to do things to get you to where you want to be, or do the things that you want to do. That's you know, and then being the role model to help other people be able to do the same thing. And it just keeps going on and on and on. And, you know, you'll have more people going out and doing what they enjoy doing, because once you do something that you love, everything else falls into place. The money starts to fall into place, and it's just preparing yourself to get to that point. And even if you have to do it in small increments, do it month by month, or you do it quarterly, you know, you set your goals up and you start. It starts from there. Then it goes into having a set goal for the year. Then once you accomplish that, it's the goal for the next couple of years. And then it goes and escalates to something else until you have a bigger picture of what you want to map out for your whole future. But it starts with little small steps to that. Because you can have the big picture, but you don't want to dive into the big picture all at once. You have to do it small steps. Small pictures getting into the big pictures. So these are all components of what you need to do in order to really map out a blueprint of what you want to do for your business. For those of you who are trying to start a small blueprint of what you want to go and where you want to be afterwards. And then for those of you that are already dived in, but you want to expand it, it's just now how you want to get to the next level and how do you want to go about it. And it's all the same it's the same way in order to do that. It doesn't matter where, you know, in what level you're at. It's the same progression of how to do it. Small steps into a bigger step. And I've been literally talking for like an hour and a half now, just on all of the things that I've been thinking about and just kind of like had on in my mind for the longest. And I think that I've never been in detail of explaining how you should go about things and how to really get to that point. And it doesn't matter like the industry that you're in, it's all going to be the same thing. It's all about how you go about getting to that step. And then it's just the steps after. And you know, these are just important components of mapping out what your business is going to be like, and what you see your business going to be like, the outline of what the end result is. What's the big picture? And then how to go into leading into the big picture. So, you know, these are things that you have to look into. And you start from small increments until you get to the year. And a year can go very quickly. It goes in 3 blinks and you're already at the end of the year. I remember when we started January, and I recall how I wanted to do specific things, and here I am, almost a year later, and almost everything that I wanted to do has kind of fallen in place, and that's because I've taken the initiative and taken the action to get to that point and making connections. And it's also putting yourself out there. If you believe in something or you want something, you have to put it out into the universe, and the universe complies. And the rest, you have to take the action. So you have to actually do the legwork to get there. You have to make the connections and connect with people in order to get there. You have to organize it in order to get there. There's a lot of components in order to get to that point. And, and there's more things to come for the following year. And it's just being able to have a plan and being able to take the action, executing it, making the proper steps of who you want in your network and how you want to be perceived. And, it's all of that. And it's just one significant thing, and that's the mind and how you go about it. Do you want to go on the positive, or do you want to go on the negative? Do how you're thinking on things? And anything else that you're not too sure of, it's get a mentor, get someone that can help you out. Read books. By reading books, you can get an idea of more or less of having that knowledge in order to go forward and do specific things. And and then the most important thing is taking action, implementing the things that you do. It doesn't matter. You're going to make mistakes along the way, and that's normal. It's just a matter of, okay, you make the mistakes, and now you just continue moving forward until you achieve that you set the standards, the goals for that. So that these are things that I really think that is important for having something successful in business, is being able to map all of those things out and being able to have something in place and making the proper connections and all of that. So, ladies and gentlemen, I've been literally talking nonstop for an hour and 15 minutes. Oh my God, no, an hour and 35 minutes, excuse me. We're very close, very, very close to getting towards the end of the show. This is a record that I've been talking 2 hours straight on various topics. And I think we started on a light note in regards to speaking about Halloween, and how Halloween is one of my favorite holidays, and how businesses, certain industries have had their share of not Halloween, but more on the supernatural note. And I think that kind of dived into other things that reflect on business and how to go about business, and how to, be able to have a successful business and how to go about it and all of that. But overall, it's one of the reasons why I come here and I do this constantly, and I say it all the time, is because I love to be able to do 2 things. One of them is I always enjoy knowing someone's journey, someone's life story of where they are, where they're going, and where they want to be, or if they're already there, how they went about it, like, what was their inspiration to get to where they are. So I always like to know someone's life story. It's very interesting to me how people come from different walks of life, and the end result is very similar. In a sense, they're successful, but how they got to that journey and be able to get to that point, that's the part that I always find interesting, because not everybody comes from the same background. Not everybody is going to have the same story to share. So that's one component. The other component is that I always like to be able to have something for people to learn from, and to take something away from in regards to what I share or my guests that are on the show. I like to be able to be very, very candid on what my train of thought is when I'm going through my own things, or being able to give something that people can learn from. And I love to teach. One of the bigger things that I love doing, even when I go to events and people ask me specific things, is I love to teach people about something. So if I know something and I know it very well, then I am more than happy to go out and share it to other people. Why do I want to keep the secret of what I think the secret to success is, or the secret to, doing something to fulfill a goal? It's being able to share it with other people. So I love to teach certain things. So if I'm really knowledgeable about something, then I can sit there and I can explain it so that they can understand it and they can take something away for it and they can apply it themselves. And that has it's an amazing feeling to be able to know that you were able to help someone out and help them get to their journey to where they want to go. And I've seen that a few times where people come up to me and they're like, oh, I have a few questions about this, or how did you go about it, or whatever the case may be. And I love to be able to sit there and be able to kind of like give them the details about things and show them, and and be able to see if they go out and they apply it, and when they come back and they said, I was able to do this, or I was able to do that, or I was able to fulfill this goal, or whatever it is, I feel very good knowing that I was able to help them on that. And one of the things that I enjoy the most is being able to help people. I think that's the reason why I created this platform, this podcast. For that reason, is to be able to help other people out and give them a little bit of my insight or my experience on things, and not just myself, my co-hosts, my co-hosts and business partners, for that matter, or other guests that come on, and be able to also, share their own stories and and their own struggles and things like that, so that they can help other people out. And I think that's the major thing that anything else is, that we as people need to go out and encourage other people to be able to be the best that they can be. And there's nothing wrong with working for someone else or having a 9-to-5. I'm not saying anything about that. But if you want to have a side business, or you want to leave that 9-to-5 and do something and be your own boss, then we're here to be able to help you out on that journey. Because now you're sitting and you're getting to know what it takes to really be at that point of being your own boss, and having your own hours, and making your own money yourself, and connecting with other people, and having a name for yourself out in the public, and people know who you are. Those are the things that I live for, and that's the reason why I'm always on the day-to-day, always trying to help other people out. And I think that's more than anything why I do it. And I think the other component is that, yes, money is a factor. Yes, we love to make the money, and that's another reason. Who doesn't want to make money? However, I think the bigger picture is to be able to help other people and still be able to make the money. And there's nothing wrong with that either. So these are like the reasons why. This is my reasons why. And I'm always thinking about, what else can I give to other people? What else I can help them with? And I'm always constantly thinking about that. And I sit, at nights thinking of all of these things. And I think that drives me to do more. And I think that's why I have like these goals of moving forward and doing specific things. And I've been very fortunate that it's led me to do more things on a positive note, and helped me get into a better a better level. And that is at some point I want to be able to take it at the level that I can be more in the public and share more. If that leads to speaking in the public, that would be amazing. Or even sharing my own accounts in books, or being able to provide business books where I can give more details of like the breakdowns of what I did in order to really get out there, and how that can help like startup companies or companies that are looking to expand a little bit more. So these are the things that I live by. This is why I do it. This is the reason why I come in on the weekends and put these shows together. And more than anything is because of you guys out there, and from what I've encountered and the people that I've had conversations with. And these are like the questions that come to mind, or these are the thoughts that they have, and to be able to help them on that level and be able to get them in their journey, that's a wonderful feeling. And with that said, we're very close towards the end of the show. I want to share a few things that are coming up. November is going to be a great month. I think that as time goes by, there's more great events coming up, and I have quite a few events coming up. November 14th, I'm going to Philadelphia to cover and feature a Shark Tank real estate developers, up and coming developers in the Philadelphia area, projects that they have, development projects that they have going on. So I'm going to be covering that, which I'm very excited about. Then November 18th, I'm going to also cover a real estate mastermind workshop. So basically the same thing that I've been ranting and rambling on for the past 2 hours is basically what's going to happen at this workshop. But this is going to be with about 10 or 12 other real estate agents from different areas of Philadelphia. And basically we're going to have a sit down and talk about the business reflection and how it's affected each individual for 2017, like what has affected them business wise, like how are the markets affected, what were the ups and downs for the agents, and what are the predictions for 2018, where do they see the market going in 2018. And we're going to have different perspective because they're coming from different areas of Philadelphia, different towns of Philadelphia. So we're going to have an interesting talk on that. So I'm really excited on that because now I'm going to get perspectives from these people and have this discussion. And there's a couple of other events coming up in the end of November. I have a couple of interviews as well coming up at the end of November. I am going to be wrapping up this movie that I'm doing. So the guest that we were supposed to have today, we had to reschedule it. Cool guy. He's a music producer. He's also a film producer, director, amazing person. He's on location filming as we speak. So I gave him a pass on it. I know that that it is very difficult to be filming and have a schedule and have everything kind of be in accordance to schedule. So, but I'm super excited to have him on at the end of towards the end of the month and talk about the movie and talk about the industry, the two industries that he's in. And he's been, he's a veteran. He's been doing this for like 20 plus years. And, having a sit down with him is amazing. I've already had a few conversations with him. And even though he's on a high status as he is, he's a very down to earth guy. And those are the people that I love to have on the show, because no matter where they're at and how successful and how high up, those are the people that are so down to earth, very humble, very laid back people. Those are the people that I enjoy more than anything, because they they still remember where they come from. And I think that's an important component, is always remember where you come from and never forget, your humble beginnings, if you have humble beginnings. Some people come from a more fortunate background. One of the people that I had an interview with just recently was Consuelo Vanderbilt Constant. She comes from she's part of the Vanderbilt family, and she's very successful. She's in fashion designer. She has a platform called Soho Muse, and a quick about 10-15 minute interview, and the woman is so like laid back, so down to earth, very approachable, nice person. And and she was making jokes about certain things, and we were laughing about certain things that she brought up. And it's amazing how like she's like from a very prestigious background, and she's just like having this conversation with us, and just being candid with things. And that's the example of what I'm saying, that you have people like that, and they're coming in and they're having that one-to-one conversation, and they're very grounded. And those are the people that I love to have on the show because of that, because they show that that you can be successful and still be approachable, still be humble about things. And she's a prime example of that. And and then very quickly, December, I'm going to be going to a real estate convention called Triple Play. I think it's from the 4th to the 7th. All people from the real estate industry. It's covered by Joe Scarice. Joe has been a wonderful person. He's been connecting me with quite a few people in the real estate sector in Philadelphia, New York, New Jersey. Shout out to Joe. Great guy. He has a lot of amazing things that he's doing as well. Looking forward to continue working with him and doing more things with him on this show, as well as my real estate show. And guys, we're coming towards the end. For all of you out there, you can reach me at workyourmoney.net, Facebook, Instagram, everything. You can reach me at Work Your Money. Until the next time, guys, bye.